with the primary goal of growing you a bigger ass.
Thumbs up being a pussy and stay huge.
Sup mates, Evan from Evolutionary Aesthetics, and in this video I'm going to walk you through a 7-week program that I created with the primary goal of growing you a bigger ass. So what does it take to prioritize your glute development? For starters, the glutes need a stimulus to be placed upon them so they can respond accordingly with an increase in muscle size, and we can do this through exercises in the gym. For a deep dive on this, go watch the glutes chapter of my Improving Mind-Muscle Connection video. It details the important factors required to optimally train the glutes, such as the different divisions of the glutes, how to train them in both the lengthened and shortened muscle lengths, and what proper exercise execution looks like for the exercises you'll be doing in this program. This 7-week program is divided into either a 3, 4, or 5-day split, depending on the availability you have each week to train. No matter the split, the goal is to get you a bigger ass, which is done by frequency. So no matter the split, you are training the glutes the most out of other muscles. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you do the 3 or the 5-day muscle split, you'll be training the glutes 3 times a week. And if you do the 4-day split, you're only training them twice, but the volume you're doing per session will be more than the 3 or the 5-day. As for other muscles of the body, if you're doing the 3-day split, you're guaranteed to train them at least once. And then the 4 or 5-day split, you'll probably be training them twice. So don't worry about other muscle groups falling behind. So which split is the best split for you? It might sound painfully simple, but pick the one that will be painfully easy for you to follow. Each split is written with the intention that all of the training days will be hit within that week. So let's say you want to follow the 5-day split, but you're only able to hit 3 of the workouts. You're going to be missing out on training volume for muscle groups that would have been accounted for had you just done the 3-day split in the first place. Assess your situation and time you're able to commit, as whatever split best fit into your lifestyle will give you the best results. So now I'm going to go over the exercises that will be directly responsible for getting you that bigger ass. Within the Google Sheet itself, which I would highly recommend downloading directly onto your phone, each exercise is a link to a clip in my Mind-Muscle Connection video showing you how to properly set up the exercise and what it'll look like when you're executing it correctly. We'll start off with the CAS bridge, which is created by the founder of N1 Education, which is where I get most of my information from, Kassem Hansen, the GOAT. For the CAS bridge, you're going to be training your glutes in the shortened position, which is up at that top where you'll be squeezing. So when you get into that squeeze position, do not bitch out and go back down, because that's where you're going to be holding the squeeze for at least 2 seconds each week. If you don't want to click on the links to watch the videos themselves, I have an entire cues section, which if you click on the cell, it'll just give you the talking points that I would cover in the video. The next exercise I'm going over is the RDL, which, contrary to the CAS bridge training the glutes in their shortened position where you're squeezing, the RDL trains the glutes in their lengthened position where you're down at the bottom. Do not spend time at the top position for an RDL squeezing your glutes. Simplest way for me to put it is that you're wasting your time squeezing your glutes at the top, where else you could be putting your energy getting yourself out of that bottom position where you're getting the most bang for your buck. The glute focused press trains your glutes in the lengthened to mid-range position. Your quads are still going to contribute some force production in this, so don't be afraid if you feel your quads working. But make sure that you're watching this video or following the cues to make sure that you're executing it correctly to bias more of your glutes. The last exercise that is responsible for helping you get a bigger ass will be the glute med kickback. This exercise wasn't included in my Improving Mind-Muscle Connection video or program, so I'm going to go over how to execute it correctly right now. The first thing we're looking for is that we want to make sure that we're setting up this cable so that it's in between our ankle and our knee. When we're starting off to get ourselves set up correctly, we want to make sure that we're taking a step away from this cable so that our lead leg is crossing over that leg that we're standing there with. When you're performing this exercise, we want to bring your leg out, not directly out to the side, but rather give it a little bit of like 30-ish degrees out behind you. And other execution tips are to limit your torso movement and try and just keep it at that leg. As for all of the other exercises you'll be performing in this program, the names used to describe them, such as like the anterior delt press, upper back row, the names I used are rather general to account for that not everybody has access to the same equipment. Someone might only be able to use dumbbells, where someone like me who works out at Evolution Fitness here in Fargo, I have access to more machines than most could ever dream of having access to. So to account for this, I have this equipment use cell. So you can put in what you were using, so then come the next week, you'll be able to go back. If you have access to more than one equipment, you'll be able to remember what you used, or just keep it consistent with what you used in the previous weeks. To get the most out of each exercise and the program as a whole, you'll need to follow the tempos as closely as you can. The format I use to assign tempo follows the X1, X2, X3, X4 format. X1 represents how long you'll be performing the eccentric or letting your muscle lengthen. X2 is how long you'll spend time at that end position with your muscle in that most lengthened spot. X3 represents how you'll perform the concentric or bringing the weight back up, which I'm going to go into more detail here in a second. And then X4 is how long you'll be spending time in that end position once the concentric is over, which is commonly referred to as the squeeze. X1, X2, and X4 are relatively straightforward as they'll only have numbers to follow, but what I'm going to go into right now about X3 is that you can have numbers, which I used in the Mind Muscle Connection program, but for this program, we'll be using either an X or an A. Starting off with what A means when it's sitting in that X3 position, the A represents accelerating the weight up into the squeeze, and an exercise you'll be doing this with is the cast bridge. So here I have a clip with one of my clients, Nathan. Shout out to him for letting me put him through this, showing you what a set looks like with that A intent. So he's going to start off the concentric nice and slow, but then speed up the weight into that squeeze where he'll be holding. At the beginning of the set, it will be rather obvious that you're starting slow and then speeding the weight up into the squeeze. But as you'll see as the set progresses, even though the weight is going slower into that squeeze, he is still trying to accelerate it as hard as he can. So we'll watch what happens when he gets towards the end. You can feel it right there. So now as we're progressing towards the end of the set, you can see that right here about is where for most people, if you get to the point where he's feeling right there, he wants to give up. But that's where I made him double down on, even if the weight is not moving as fast as he'd want it to, he's still trying his hardest to accelerate that weight up into the squeeze. The other letter that you'll see in that X3 position regarding the intent you'll have for each rep will be an X, and the X represents exploding the weight from the bottom position, and you'll be doing this for exercises that are hardest in the lengthened position, such as the glute focus press or the RDL. So here I have a clip of Nathan doing the RDL. And when he is using the X intent, he is not trying to use his entire body to explode the weight up. Rather, he's using the target muscle to initiate that explosion. And in this case, for an RDL, it's going to be the glutes. We're going to see the same drop-off in speed of the weight moving as the set progresses. But even though the weight is moving slow, he is still dialed in on trying to explode the weight up with his glutes. And if he didn't have that intent there, he would probably quit a few reps before. The advantage to using either an exploding or accelerating intent is to let you get deeper and deeper into the set, closer to failure, while keeping your execution of that exercise the same. It will be obvious what intent you have at the beginning of the set, but as I explained previously, you want to double down on that intent the slower and slower that those weights move. So how will you know if you are making progress throughout the 7 weeks of this program? Following the tempos as closely as possible will make your progress easier to monitor and maintain. Week 1 will be used for assessing what weights you can use to follow the assigned tempo and fit into the assigned rep ranges. Rep ranges within this program range from 8 to 15, with more of the bigger compound movements on the lower end, and the more isolated smaller movements will be towards the higher end. For week 2, you're going to start your working sets with the weight you used in week 1, but you're going to be doing it with a slower tempo or longer squeeze and still meeting the targeted rep range. And then if you're able to reach the rep range fairly easily, then you're going to add more weight. Come week 3, the tempos will return to what you did in week 1, but your goal is to use more weight than you did in week 1. This seesaw pattern will continue throughout the remaining weeks of performing longer eccentrics or squeezes with the weight used from the previous week, and then going to shorter eccentrics or squeezes with more weight than the previous week. Once the 7 weeks are over, you'll be able to see the progress that you made, as when you put in the weight for week 1, let's just say you did 100, and then come week 7, you are following the same tempos, but you're able to use 200. You'll be able to see down here how much of an increase in weight you were using, but still following the same tempos and rep range. So that's a wrap for this video, but I'll have a complimentary video for this one about other actionable items that you can take outside of the gym to help you grow a fatter ass as soon as possible. A link to access this program will be in the video description, as well as on my website. Also on my website are other free resources, such as the Improving Your Mind-Muscle Connection workout program, which I referenced a few times in this video, along with my Potent Priorities ebook, which discusses the 4 areas you should be directing your focus if your goal is to look and feel your best in the shortest amount of time, but also being able to maintain it for the long haul. You can support Evolutionary Aesthetics via the value for value model. If you found anything in this video, or anything I've done in the past or will do in the future valuable, you can assign what that means to you. So let's say you followed this program and you grew your ass 2 inches. That 2 means something to you. Whether that is $2 or $200, if it's valuable to you, it is valuable to me. A link to donate will be in my video description or even the support tab on my website. Within the donation, you can leave a note sharing your experience or any other things that you might find helpful for other people to read, and submit any progress photos that you have as well. As in the future, I'd like to make videos showing your successes and my appreciation for your support. Thanks for watching, and you'll see me in the next video.